Hello and welcome back to what's now part 18. Yeah, so it seemed only right to take a few days break from this in view of the very sad loss of Her Majesty the Queen just a few days ago, and also with yesterday being the anniversary of 9/11. It seemed quite inappropriate to just carry on putting these videos out, just temporarily. But this does bring me to another, quite important subject around the whole case, as in, respect for the dead. And this is something that I've observed, through the communities, the Amityville communities, the online groups, etc., where people will seem to demand respect for the dead when it comes to the DeFeo family. It's always, well, we shouldn't be doing this. We shouldn't be talking about this, that, and the other. We should be respecting the dead. We should be remembering that 6 people lost their lives. Well, I mean, as I've said, a few times before now, I do respect them and I don't like to talk about them too much for that very reason. And also, it's something that, does beg the question, well, why are they here then? If they're just so, adamant that we shouldn't be talking about certain things. But the thing that really always strikes me about this is, people will talk about, respecting the deceased DeFeo family. But then this respect doesn't always seem to extend to George and Kathy Lutz, who are also deceased. Yeah, so we do have to think about these things. We do have to consider, where do these principles start and end? Because, we're talking a couple who are no longer with us, and yet, we do have people who are still trying to tarnish and damage their reputation, people who are still trying to label them and incriminate them in some way. So we do have to consider this. I mean, we can't demand respect for, one set of people and say that it doesn't apply to others. So we got to think, along the lines of, hypocrisy. Yeah, double standards. These things do have to be, looked at and considered. That they just do. I mean, we can't have one rule for one and one rule for another. We just can't. And I feel that this is something that would also extend to another very significant couple who are also no longer with us. And I'm talking about the very, very well-known Ed and Lorraine Warren. And I'm going to talk quite openly about them, just briefly. I'm not going to go into any huge details or personal opinions as such. I'm just going to give you a brief synopsis of, how I perceived them. Now, a lot of people out there, are still, very rigidly saying they were utter frauds, that they never did any good, everything that they did was fake and all in the name of financial gain. And some will even say that they made some people's fears even worse. And that they, went around embellishing things and put more fear into people instead of helping them. Well, that I feel that that's a matter of opinion. I do feel that that is something that's, quite, kind of down to how you're seeing it, really. Well, the thing is, what I've heard from very reliable sources, and I do mean people who've known them, some people who've even worked with them, that we're talking about a couple who never accepted any money for the help they provided to people. They would travel great distances, and the only money that they would take from anyone would be to cover their travel expenses. And on some occasions, not too many, it would also stretch to accommodation if they needed a hotel or a motel, whatever, maybe for one night or two. So we're talking someone who didn't make money out of what they did. And I suppose we could say, yeah, but they went away and wrote books about their experiences. So are we calling that cashing in on, someone else, someone else's problems? Possibly, possibly not. I suppose that, again, it depends on how we look at it. Because if someone is in great fear and they don't know what to do or who to turn to, and then this couple turns up and helps them, takes away their fear, they're not taking any money from them, apart from, as we've said, necessary expenses. I suppose we could say that the least they can do is say, well, yeah, by all means, write a book about your experiences here. We give you our blessing to write about this. It doesn't really seem like much to ask for in return for the help that they provided. Yeah. So as I say, this isn't me telling you the absolute truth. This is me saying to you that there's always other ways to look at things. There's always other sides to consider. And I mean, I suppose when it comes to the Warrens, I'll be quite candid in what I'm about to say, that I do believe that they came across as eccentric. They came across as very one-sided. And it was to the point where they were just, saying, we are telling the truth, this is it, and everyone has to believe it, this is what happened, etc., etc. There never seemed to be any leeway or any kind of acceptance of other views or opinions. It's like, we're telling you as it is, and that's it. It wasn't a case of, we'll tell you the information as we know it, and then it's up to you to decide what you believe or don't believe. It was like, we're telling you. Yeah. So that, I appreciate, could come across in the wrong way. It could come across as too much. It could come across as a little bit preachy, maybe. I will say that it comes across as a little bit sanctimonious, to some. Yeah, I can appreciate that. But it's also got to be remembered that over time, we're talking a couple who are still working, in advanced years. I mean, it has been said, and I mean, I have seen this myself, or heard examples of Lorraine Warren getting things wrong, talking about things from years ago and getting details muddled up, but I mean, that is sometimes, like I say, sometimes she would maybe get carried away and lost in the moment and she'd muddle things up, but that doesn't make her a liar. That doesn't mean that she's insincere or, was a complete fraud by any means. I feel that what we're looking at here is a couple who were very passionate about their work to the point where, they were not wanting to hear of anyone who was against it. And, that they were just, really, really, trying to put across that these things are real, these things do frighten people. And, we need people to listen to them and help them, to not just dismiss them all the time. Yeah, so like I said, people do say, they were the biggest frauds in paranormal history. They will say that the Amityville horror was the biggest hoax that they ever, kind of got involved with. I mean, I will say myself that, maybe they did, kind of overinflate things. Maybe they did with, the Amityville horror, because we're talking about initially a family who just came away from that house saying, something frightened us. We don't know what it was, but we were frightened and we didn't feel we could stay there. Then next thing we know, we're getting people coming along talking about demons. We're not just talking about spirits and ghosts, we're talking about demons. So something's inflating this whole thing straight away. And so, like I say, this is where I can appreciate that some people would say, no. But in other ways, like I say, from my perspective and from my learnings, it does appear to me that they were good people who were out with good intentions. And so it is always just worth looking at the other side of things before passing any great judgments. Yeah. And as I said at the very start, sometimes when making these statements, especially now, let's remember respect for the dead. Yeah. Because it works always. Okay. I'll be back again shortly. Thank you for listening. Take care and many blessings.